So this piece on the Peace Corps website about African Americans that are going to the Ukraine to help people. To help people who are running away from being murdered or killed, or if we believe everything the news says, ran from their homes, etc. To African Americans, and from an African American first point of view, from a Peace Corps worker, it is not uncommon for Ukrainians to refer to African Americans as the N-word, as a nigger. Volunteers of color may be called a monkey, or may see children's games with blackface, making fun of black people. Being aware of the history of dehumanization for people of African descent may help inform where this comes from. It does not justify it. It will be at your discretion to determine the intent. No matter the intent, staff recognize the impact that hearing the word may invoke, hurt, or anger. So I want to get into not just this about the Ukraine, but I've said it again and again that this area of the world is about to become extremely, extremely important. And it is so important that us as African Americans understand exactly how we fit into it. So let's get started. So as we start out with this piece from the Peace Corps. But I'd like to, before we jump directly into that, I'd like to just, for those who don't know me, my name is Farouk Hunter. This is the Voice of Freedom. We here talk holistically about one issue, Black Power, and about establishing Black Power, not just in the United States, but on the earth. In order to do so, in order to fulfill what I feel is the absolute statement of a post-slavery era, the right of return for African Americans is to the world, then we need to understand exactly how the world is outlaid, where it is that we have success. A lot of us believe that naturally we can go to Africa, and since we're from there, we should automatically feel good. Look, there's a lot of history in Africa. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it when I hear a white person say something to me like, oh, Africans sold Africans. It hurts your heart. But unfortunately, it's hell of a true. Africans did sell Africans. There were several people from the Oba of Benin and the Yoruba Kingdom, from individuals down in the southern parts of a little lower down. I'll introduce that later at another date. There's this beautiful website called slavevoyages.com. And you should look up slavevoyages.com because it is a great archive of the many things and the many places that Africans, that African American slaves came from. And one of the things that it has is just like this great image that shows exactly where we came from as far as like where the majority of the slave trade actually came, and a lot of data that's there. But the truth of the matter is, in the simple terms, is that Africa in itself, just because it's filled with black people, isn't always friendly to African Americans. There are several things that are still in place, several mentalities that still really shape the way that us as African Americans are treated. So it's not appropriate to think that the only place that African Americans would have an impact is in Africa. African Americans, not just Africans, I'm talking about African Americans right now, black Americans. We have literally traveled all around the world in the last 200 years, spreading our impact and being available for many different cultures of people, to assist them through the process of war, the recovery of several different various hardships. For example, another conversation for another day, African American soldiers were there helping to rebuild the roads that connected China to southern India. That road that exists had African American hands on it that have built that road. In Korea, we helped to free the Korean people from the tyranny of the North Koreans. And they owe a great deal of their freedom to the African Americans that fought, including my grandfather, as well as the African Americans that are there right now, stationed inside those bases. That's not to exclude anybody else. It's just to say that we have committed ourselves and our lives to the safety and security of many other people through different forms and fashions. And we have stood for a lot of people and beside a lot of people in the midst of their hardships. And our place in the world is cemented as a global element, not just simply an African element. And I love that, the idea of returning to Africa and becoming strong, but I'm not negating our place in the rest of the world either. That brings me over to this little piece that has recently become popular. And that's just literally, I say recently, like today. So basically, a news source went out. They found this information on the Peace Corps website, and then they decided to publish it. What it does is I can roll up a little bit, and it's a kind of it's about diversity and inclusion, and it's specifically about Ukraine. Now, the Peace Corps, of course, is an organization. You know, I remember sitting with Pastor Durley, and Pastor Durley is one of those very original individuals that was with Martin Luther King, that was with the now ambassador Andrew Young, and several of our leaders inside the African American space when they marched on Selma. He was a young guy there. He's not young anymore. He's in his late 70s. But he jokingly tells me that he was a young guy in the group. But he was there, and he's always been a part of that group. And, you know, one of the things that he told me was that after marching so much, he had been thrown in jail by white people so often that he couldn't get a job once he started to try to get into his life. And one of the first offers that he had, you know, I met his son Hassan Durley. He has a daughter named, I think Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa. But I said, why all your kids have Arabic names? He said, because I joined the Peace Corps back when it started. You know, he was heading a group of students inside a university in Atlanta, and one of the Kennedys had come directly to him and asked him to speak to the students there at the AU Center in order to solicit people to come to the Ukraine. So, I mean, not to the Ukraine, but to go to the Peace Corps. So we should understand that the original recruiting elements of the Peace Corps, the establishment and direction of this entity that goes around and tries to put together projects that assist people in poverty and other situations. I have nothing bad or good to say about the Peace Corps. Their mission is definitely, as it's stated, is a good mission outwardly. I've met several people from the Peace Corps, and they seem to always have strong and open minds and willingness to be involved in several different projects. So, but it's also good to mention that the original recruiting involved going to historically black colleges and universities and bringing African Americans around the world. So from its inception, if you've seen a white person Peace Corps, you saw a black person in Peace Corps. I can tell you for at least 50 years that has been the case. So the account of diversity inclusion in the Peace Corps is an origin concept. And when talking about the Ukraine and the idea of diversity and inclusion, you know, some of the things that you read here is very interesting. That's all I can say. That if you have a chance, I'm going to put the link down in the bottom. Click the link, read this for yourself, and read the idea of color. One of the things that interests me the most, I think I'm going to scroll down to it. Right? A majority of the time, people view me with curiosity. Most people I work with love to ask me about my ancestry. They are polite and respectful. Occasionally, I'm mistaken for an Arab or an African refugee, and I hear some people shouting. Most Ukrainians are embarrassed by the behavior, and I have never felt scared for my physical safety. Now, these are accounts from actual volunteers. And this is a volunteer saying that the people around them who are aware of who they are, that they're African Americans, can just show curiosity. But walking in the street, Random shouting, random shouting. I've seen this. Okay, I have literally traveled to 83 plus countries, and I'm telling you that there are some countries like the Ukraine where there is blatant racism. There's some countries where you wouldn't even expect it. Like I'll give you a great example. I get on a motorcycle, and I ride from Rome all the way up the left side of Italy and through Italy, and I really expected to receive a certain level of racism. I didn't. Every small town I went into, people were nice and kind. Parents and opened up their spaces and told their children to serve me. It was really beautiful experience. I've done it twice through Italy just to kind of reaffirm in my soul. Now in Rome, it's trashy. People got their issues back and forth, but once you get into Italy, it's different. Ukraine is different though. When you go into the Ukraine, you're dealing with racism, pure, utter, simple racism. How? Now people might turn around. Some folks might tell you that it's the popularity of rap songs that makes people actually use the word nigger. Let me explain to you a situation in the same region from my own experiences where people use the word nigger and have no derogatory concept. They get it from rap songs. They appreciate, they love that music. They're into it. Me and my wife and one of my babies were walking in Pristina, Kosovo. Okay? Now, Kosovar people are considered a little on the darker edge of Europeans. You wouldn't classify them as a Western European at all. They were facing horrible, forget about war. I'm talking about they were literally facing genocide from the Serbians. The Serbians were using the same systematic method that white people used in the United States against black people. What they basically did is they invalidated the Constitution of Kosovo. They sent their police force in to start policing. And the police would do things, tell me if this sounds familiar to you, like walk up on a man walking with his wife and grab his wife's crotch. And then when he decided to fight back, beat him down, arrest him, said that he broke the law, and then have kill him, if not kill him, in captivity. Sound familiar? Sound like something we know about? So Kosovar people went through this hell with the Serbs. They went through these issues of understanding what was going on with Serbs. Don't mind my son. He's over here stealing candy out the drawer because he knows I'm talking to you. So they were doing that. And as they were dealing with that hatred was being laid on them just like it was laid on us in the United States. There are countries in Europe that systematically practice hatred against black people. And they are different than just being CIS, former USSR, or in Europe, and they have no difference when it comes to us visiting. In Kosovo, they didn't see black people. Black people didn't show up in Kosovo often. We were people who people look at and say, wow. But when people said, wow, they come up, they wouldn't scream and hoot from across the street. They come over and say something to you. At most, they admired the idea of you there. If you sat next to them and said, can you take a picture with me and my family? I heard the word nigger one time inside of Kosovo. I heard the word nigger one time. And we were sitting inside of the grocery store, me and my wife and my baby. And we were listening to music like Bubba Sparks, everything else playing, repping College Park and stuff like that. And as we're sitting there, we hear somebody walk in the store and they say, yo, my nigga, what's up? Now, we walked around the corner and this was a young man that just got out of school. His high school had just let out. And when he saw us, he said, oh shit! And he jumped up and dived behind a cash register and hid out of shame. Out of shame. He knew that the word was used black people to black people. He knew that it had a derogatory past and a derogatory element if said to a black person. However, he admired black people. And between his friends, he started using the terminology because he heard popular rap do it. Son, close my door. You can have one more. This is going to be on the video. There you go. That's it. Close the door. See you. I'm a father of 10. Not apologizing for that. Close the door. So he knew, and this is the context. This is the part that's important. Hip hop, popular music, the utilization of the word nigger. People are not stupid. And because they're not stupid, they know that utilizing this word in one way is positive. It's a thing of friend to friend. It's about disabling a very negative term. We know it. As black people, we say it. I'll be that nigga. I'll be that nigga. You want me to be a nigga? I'll be that nigga. And I'm still awesome on everything else. We're going to make it this and that. You want me? Okay, I can't stop you from saying it. I'll be that nigga. This is where it came from. Educated, astute people, we don't call each other nigga. But I do understand why black people started to use the word to try to disable it. And so do people when we travel. Never, ever, 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 except that people don't know. So I heard it there. I heard it one time down inside of Shymkin in South Kazakhstan. I came off the plane and a little girl, teenage girl, said, "Yo, my nigga, what's up?" And then she giggled and she laughed and she went to the side. And I said, "It's okay. What's up, girl?" And she got it. She wasn't trying to say something bad. She was trying to think that I can connect. I can be one of them. The last time, no one even used the word. But I felt the feeling. I was in Moldova, in Chisinau, Eastern Europe, right there within the Ukraine. It's right next to the Ukraine. Kids walking down the street, me and my wife and my brother-in-law sitting over on the corner side. The kid's coming down with some earphones on. He's listening to black rap music in the first place. As he's walking, you know, doing his thing, chum, 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 he sees us. When he sees us, he's like, I swear. He didn't speak a lick of English. He didn't have any way to connect, but his desire to connect was so true, so deep, so genuine that he just looked at us and went, and so I immediately said, "Oh man, come on, stop." My wife and my brother-in-law, of course, go. And I said, "Oh no, that's not the way." But the point is, the bigger point is that when a person wants to interact with you in a positive way, they know how. If they don't know how, they look for a way to do it. And their intention is clear. And you know that they don't mean anything bad. But when a person wants to put you down, when a person wants to show racism against you, when a person wants to be derogatory towards you, when a person is invested in the concept of enlisting themselves at a higher level by degrading someone else, you feel it, you know it, and you know it when you see it, and they know exactly what they're doing. In the Ukraine, it is common to do this. It's why the Ukraine has the most organized, professional, racist militia in the world. I'm not down in all Ukrainians. I know some Ukrainians. They're not bad people. But I'll be damned if I'm told that people in the U.S. don't have a racial problem. People in Ukraine do. And the problem about the people in Ukraine, they have it without us even being there. They have it with zero knowledge of what we went through. They develop that, even the ones who know. I had one guy tell me one time, he looked at me, said something, I explained to him. He said, "I know all that. I know all that." So that's about the Ukraine. That's why I'm persistent in talking about the hypocrisy, absolute hypocrisy of white Europeans and white Americans when it comes to this Ukrainian issue. I could go into a whole topic about the history of Europe and Russia. It's never really been that positive. But on the backside of that, I can tell you about Russia giving weapons to the Ethiopians to fight off the Italians. So you got these horrific individuals like Mussolini, and I'm supposed to stand with them because they're European? Racist, horrible individuals. No, I think not. The issues that face today are very complex. There are a lot of sides. But my people, my black people, I'm going to tell you, stay away from those things and those spaces where there is blatant hate against you, where there is a blatant movement amongst people to treat you less than what you are. It's horrible to see human suffering. It's horrible for people to have to die simply because someone wants to prove a point. It's horrible to take what belongs to someone else because you believe it belongs to you or you can. I am not condoning it. I'm also not saying that it's one-sided. Let me be clear about that, because it's not. I've worked in that area. I'm telling you, it's not one-sided. Both the creation of the USSR and the separation of the USSR were both invigorated by forces much bigger than Russia. That's the truth. And Russia did a lot of bad stuff, a lot of sins to pay for. Stalin was not a nice guy. Don't know what the hell I'd do if I was leading a country that lost 27 million people in a war, but I'll just say he wasn't a nice guy. Okay? So I'm not trying to condone that. This ain't about Russia and the Ukraine. My point is, if Russia and the Ukraine, as a black person, ain't my problem. Not my issue. The only issue I'm concerned with is its impact on the world and whether or not it will drag my little brown black babies into a war. And I have to say that because no Ukrainian is showing up on the streets trying to protect George Floyd. None of them are coming down trying to preach for any kind of African American issues. Neither are they opening up space and welcoming us into their country so that we can utilize it as a space to negotiate any kind of deals of peace, significance, or prosperity. We pray for them as we pray for everyone that died on the exact same day that they died. The Syrians that died the exact same day that they died. The Libyans that died the exact same day that they died. The Yemenis that died the exact same day that they died. The Ethiopians that are toggled into a war that they really didn't start. That was triggered after Donald Trump invited the ambassador of Ethiopia, demanded the ambassador of Ethiopia come to the White House. I'm sorry, I cannot put a preference on you just because you're European and white. As a matter of fact, it means that it's not my fight. And if my people go down to the ground and you're silly enough to try to pony up your life for this particular incident, then understand what you're going to receive. Inside the warning here at the Peace Corps, they're literally saying that people trying to help the refugees, these are people who've lost their home, who have nothing left, who are running for their life, and in the midst would still involve themselves in hate, would still take the time to call you a monkey. Ain't no popular term that coincides with us calling each other monkey. So if someone's doing that, they don't mean you no well-being. That's my take on the Ukraine. Now, to add a little piece towards the end of this thing, I'd like to give you my take on the rest of the CIS countries. Now, we call CIS countries those countries that are former USSR countries that were part of the Soviet Union prior to its disbandment and the reestablishment of independent countries like Kazakhstan, like Ukraine, like these countries. I will tell you this. I've lived here in Kazakhstan for 4 years now. I've traveled in Kosovo, Moldova, Romania. I've been in several Eastern European countries. Now I've been in several Central American countries. Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. I can tell you for a fact, black people don't show up here. Black people don't come very often. But when they see us, and everyone I've ever brought here, they're not called niggas. They damn sure ain't called monkeys. People take pictures with us when we walk inside of the mall. When we go to eat, it's the height of someone's day to be able to share what's up with a black person and know that they're talking to someone who is of the people who originated the term. Don't ever let someone sell you on the idea that the word in Russian for black is nigra. It's not. It's chorny. And I have so many people in Russian who call me the chorny bratan, their close black brother. That's common. It's way more common than someone screaming at you from across the way. It's way more common than someone calling you monkey or seeing children play in blackface. I haven't seen that here at all. Not here. I haven't seen that in Central Asia at all. Understand that that kind of characteristic is unique to Europeans. I've seen other things, like in Egypt, when you go in and someone's trying to classify you. My name happens to be Farouk. So in Egypt, I get along well. But when I pull out my American passport, I get the same stupidness. Where's your father from? Where's your father's father from? That's ignorance. That's just not knowing. You don't know enough about the world to understand where we come from. But derogatory terms and intention is clear. The rest of the world is open to us in many places. Don't buy this concept that just because we haven't been somewhere, that the people treat us funny. There's some things that you might be sensitive to because of our background, and when we see them, it irritates us a lot. But the truth of the matter is that in Central Asia and Eastern Europe, we find our home with other people of like backgrounds. It's not hard for us to find our space with Kosovar because they've been downtrodden. They've been the race that was pushed to the side and treated bad because of who they were by people of whiter skin. They understand us. They know we are bonded through that struggle. When you go to Western China, you'll receive the same. They're bonded through struggle. When you go to other places in the world that understand the complexities and the nature of what it means to be segregated and demeaned by Europeans, Western Europeans, then you'll understand the connection that we have to them. Our right of return is to the world, and the Ukraine is not our fight.